Okay, so today we are going to talk about writing body paragraphs. And what you're probably thinking is, we've already talked about writing body paragraphs, which we kind of have. But this particular bit of reading that you did, which was only a few pages, covers a little bit of different information as you are looking specifically at your literature review as well as your later on your research paper. So this is going to give you a little bit more information about how to structure those a little bit better. So and of course my dogs wait until I start talking to start playing with toys. All right, so remember, wait a minute. Oh, that's right. When writing, body paragraphs should follow the roadmap your thesis sets forth. So in other words, when you are, especially with your research paper, you are giving me reasons why your argument is valid. So this particular argument because this reason, this reason, this reason. And so I should know, looking at that thesis, that those are the reasons that they're going to be in your body paragraphs. When you're looking at your literature review, you are, that thesis statement that you turned into me last week, you're telling me, my sources agree on these particular points, but they disagree on the reasons why, or they disagree on these points or something like that. And so I'm going to know that throughout your paper, you're going to show me how they agree and how they disagree on those different points that you mentioned. So selecting primary support for your thesis. Remember, primary support is that first-hand type of information that you're going to use. So the major points you choose to expand on your thesis in the body paragraphs. Excuse me. So what you need to do is, before you start writing, is to lay out the major points. In other words, those major topic sentences that you are going to be using in your body to build up your body paragraphs, to build the body of your paper. So remember, those different supporting, each paragraph should be relevant to your thesis. It should, support is considered strong when it relates directly to the thesis. I want every one of those body paragraphs to refer back to that argument in that thesis and remind me what you are telling me, what you presented as an argument in the beginning. Remind me of that throughout the paper. Primary support should show, explain, or prove your main argument without delving into irrelevant details. You're going to stay focused on that particular point in that particular paragraph. Sometimes you may start writing and you think, oh, and then this is kind of related to this other point, and whatever. But if you start straying off the topic, I'm going to lose track. The reader's going to lose track of what you're going for. So remember, you're going to stay focused and just present one point per supporting paragraph. So as it said, this is a copy from the book. Effective writers resist the temptation to lose focus. Choose your supporting points wisely by making sure they directly connect to your thesis. Make sure that those supporting points are specific as well. The main points you make about your thesis and examples you use to expand on those points need to be more specific than the thesis. You can't put every little bit of supporting evidence in your thesis, otherwise your thesis would be very, very long. So you're giving me general ideas in your thesis, and then you're going to make it more specific as you go through in your body paragraph. So you're going to be using those specific examples in your body paragraph. So each body paragraph is going to be you're going to be giving me a main supporting point, and then you're going to give me specific details to support that main supporting point, which then, as I said before, refers back to your thesis. As it said in the book, general examples, while they convey the necessary information, are not nearly as compelling or useful in writing because they are too obvious or typical. So pull out that specific information from your sources to use to support your argument. Make sure you're detailed. Remember that your thesis, while specific, should not be very detailed. The details, you're saving those details for your body paragraphs. That's where you develop your discussion with a thorough essay that a thorough essay requires. So using detailed support shows readers that you have considered all the facts and chosen only the most precise details to enhance your point of view. And notice it says, only the most important, because you may find a whole lot of support. Especially, you may have one point that you may find more support for than the other points, and so you think, oh, okay, I'm just going to make this supporting paragraph really long because I'm going to put every single example in there. You don't give me every single example you find if you've got a whole bunch of them. Your body paragraphs should all be around the same length. Each one should be about the same length. So just make sure you find the most important, the most detailed, the most compelling argument and details to support that argument. So selecting the most effective primary supporting points relate directly back to your main idea for topic sentences. So remember we talked about topic sentences, and we said those are kind of like a mini thesis for your for that particular paragraph. So that first sentence in every body paragraph, I should read that and know exactly what point you're going to be covering in that paragraph. So when we're talking about the different supporting points, things that you can use, there is facts, of course. They're the best kind of evidence because you can't really fight against them, I guess, unless you're in a presidential debate, which don't do that. Make sure that you are telling me true things that you have support for. So make sure that you are providing background information, and don't just throw a fact in there. Make sure that every bit of support, whether it's a fact or anything else, give me an explanation as to how that helps you prove your argument. So you give me a fact, okay, why is that important? How does that relate back to your thesis? How does that relate back to the main supporting point for that paragraph? Could be a judgment as well, judgments or conclusions drawn from given facts. So in other words, a lot of times you find that in secondary sources where someone has compiled research or looked at different facts, and then they come to a conclusion based on those. Those are also pretty good to use for support. As it says, their judgments are more credible than opinions because they are founded upon careful reasoning and examination of the topic. You're looking carefully at those facts. Testimony usually consists of direct quotations from either an eyewitness or an expert witness. It could be an interview that you're using. An eyewitness is obviously someone who has direct experience with the subject, who was there. You think about an eyewitness to a traffic accident with someone who saw the accident happen, that kind of thing. An expert witness is a person who has extensive experience with the topic. In other words, when I used to work as a paralegal, we did medical malpractice cases, and we would call in different expert witnesses for different cases, and it would usually be a doctor who had many years of experience with a particular area of medicine. So they are a practicing doctor. If this was a cardiology case, they have been practicing cardiology and studying that for a long time. So they were someone who was considered an expert in their field. And that usually would be consistent with an interview as well, something like that. Personal observation. So personal observation is similar to testimony. Personal observation consists of your testimony. So sometimes you may want to include your own information in there. Say, for example, if it's a subject that relates directly to something that is important in your life. As I mentioned before, you want to try and avoid using first person as much as you can in your writing. So when you're getting to your research paper, if you're wanting to include personal testimony and personal observation, then maybe that is, I would try. The only reason I would really use that is if you have a really unique experience. So if you're saying, oh, I've observed this happening, but it's something that a lot of people have observed to happen, then use an outside source. Don't just automatically go, okay, I've seen this, so I'll just say I saw this. But if it's something that's a very unique experience to you, your family, your personal experience, something that you personally have a different viewpoint than anybody else does, then that would probably be okay to use that personal observation as a supporting point for your heading toward that thesis. So choosing supporting topic sentences states one aspect of your thesis and then expands on it. So you're listing different reasons in your thesis. Each body paragraph should only cover one of those reasons, and your topic sentence should tell me which one of those reasons it is and what main points of the basic argument of your essay. So you're going to tell me which one of those main points that you have in your thesis you're going to be talking about in that paragraph. Always refer back to and support your thesis statement. I should still, with each one of your topic sentences, still have even if I just read the topic sentence, I would have some idea of what your thesis statement said, even if I hadn't read it. Topic sentences are linked to the ideas you've introduced in your thesis, thus reminding readers what your essay is about. You're going to feel like you're repeating yourself a lot. when you're writing this, because you keep referring back to that argument, back to that thesis. But that's what you're there to do, is to go, okay, this was the argument, and here's another point. Remember my argument. Here's another way to I'm supporting it here. So you're going to keep referring back to it over and over again. So this is an example from the book. So in this particular paper is obviously about J.D. Salinger. And so the overall thesis statement for the paper is author J.D. Salinger relied primarily on his personal life and belief system as a foundation for the themes in the majority of his works. So that's the overall thesis statement for the paper. And then you go to a body paragraph, and this would be possibly, and I guess in this example of a paper, this is the supporting topic sentence. Salinger, a World War II veteran, suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, a disorder that influenced themes in many of his works. So you can see that we're still talking about the themes, the influence for the themes in his work. And it was fairly general in the paper thesis statement because it says personal life and belief system. That's not real specific. But then when you go, okay, this particular supporting topic sentence tells me that he is a war veteran and he had PTSD. That is, now we know specifically what part of his personal life and belief system that they're going to talk about in this particular paragraph to influence his work. And then the supporting paragraph goes on, and I won't read the whole thing to you. Feel free to do that. But it goes on to explain how his PTSD from being in the war affected. They pull out specific examples of different short stories that he wrote, and based on one of his main characters in Catcher in the Rye as well. So that gives you an idea. So we've got the supporting topic sentence says, okay, this is, PTSD was part of that personal life that affected his work. And then we've got specific examples from different ones of his work that show, okay, this is all related back to that PTSD, which is part of the personal life and belief system that found it. So everything's feeding back, going back up to that thesis statement. So this is an example of a good way to do an outline. I don't know if you all do outlines. I usually do a loose version of an outline when I'm writing because it helps me kind of lay things out. But doing this support outline will help you figure out how you're going to lay out your paper and what examples you're going to use to support which supporting points. So in this example, thesis is unleashed dogs on city streets are a dangerous nuisance. Which I agree. I got chased by an unleashed dog yesterday in Alabama. So the first supporting point is dogs can scare cyclists. So there we go. That's going to be a main point. That's going to be covering one particular, when you're talking about city streets, the cyclist is going to be one particular area of the population that's going to be on that city street. And then we've got several different examples of how they might be affected by the dogs. I'm not actually sure how we got to walking here, which is not exactly related to cyclists, but I guess just in general, someone who is non-motorized perhaps. And then the second one, loose dogs are traffic hazards. So then we've got examples of how dogs can affect traffic and can possibly cause injury to themselves or someone else. I know if I see a dog in the road, I'm going to swerve away from it. And unleashed dogs damage gardens. So this must be someone who is very into gardening. I kill every plant that I try. So not something I'm related to. But that's another supporting point. So if the dogs were kept on a leash, they wouldn't get into people's gardens, and then they wouldn't have all of these other side effects that happen that people who really like their garden would be very angry about. All right, so the key takeaways of that particular chapter, like I said, it was just a few pages. Your body paragraph should closely follow the path set forth by your thesis statement. So remember that thesis statement is telling me exactly what's going to be in those body paragraphs. Strong body paragraphs contain evidence that supports your thesis. I need to have evidence. I need to have support from your sources that prove your points in your thesis. Primary support comprises the most important points you use to support your thesis. Strong primary support is specific, detail, and relevant to the thesis. Pre-writing helps you determine your most compelling primary support. That's when we're talking about pre-writing. We're talking about You know, you could be free writing and coming up with different, usually maybe making lists of things like, you know, of the different types of support you've got, the different main points you want to make, doing those outlines. That's going to be something that's really, really important to help you lay out how everything's going to come together. Evidence includes facts, judgments, testimony, and personal observation, among other things. Reliable sources may include newspapers, magazines, academic journals, books, encyclopedias, and first-hand testimony. That is something we've gone over in another video. A topic sentence presents one point of your thesis statement, while the information in the rest of the paragraph supports that point. So again, you think about each one of those body paragraphs almost like a mini thesis or a mini essay, where it's got your intro, which is kind of like your thesis. So the topic sentence is kind of like your thesis, then your support, and then you got that concluding sentence. Body paragraph comprises a topic sentence plus supporting details, which is kind of the same thing as the point from before it. Okay. So your assignments, just remember for this week, we're mostly just reading and we're going over different things, different points as far as towards your writing of your literature review, which your literature review, peer review is next week, which means you have to have a complete draft of that particular assignment for peer review. So make sure you're working on that. We're going to take time, you know, we're just going over this little bit of information. And we have about the same amount at the beginning of the Thursday class as well. And then we're going to spend a lot of time working on papers in class. So make sure you're bringing what you need to draft your paper in class, but make sure you're working on that because you have to turn in a peer review draft to me and to the rest of the class next week. So make sure that you're doing that. Also, you will have a quiz this week. It will be over the information in this video / Tuesday class and Thursday class / the Thursday video. And that will be posted, the quiz will be posted on Wednesday. So make sure you complete that and make sure you're completing your discussion so that you can get full and complete credit. I just drove 8 hours, so my brain's not working. Full credit for your attendance, and just make sure that you are letting me know if you have any questions.